Hola amigos, so a while ago I made a video on all the rappers that responded to the disses that Eminem fired at them on Kamikaze. And recently, Tyler the Creator
Yes.
Now that's what this is all about.
finally addressed some earlier comments that he had made about Eminem's music that would eventually trigger the diss that Eminem fired at Tyler on Kamikaze. So while Tyler the Creator didn't necessarily respond to the diss in the interview, I thought it would be fitting to make a sort of follow-up video, in a sense, talking about what Tyler had to say about Eminem. So, how did Tyler respond? What did he have to say about Eminem's music? And do I agree with what he said? Well, this is CDTV Productions. There's my social media handles if you want to follow me on there. And let's talk about this situation.
Dracula, Dracula, Dracula. Suck me first, I might get back at you.
So if you don't recall, on the track Fall, Bars, Eminem had this to say about Tyler the Creator.
Business Tyler, create nothing. I see why you call yourself a bitch. It's not just cause you lack attention, it's because you worship the 12 balls. You're sacrilegious.
Not the hardest Eminem's ever went on someone, but it still has a pretty venomous tone to it. Adrenaline momentum, venom. And Eminem made it clear in his interview with Sway about the Kamikaze project that this diss came from a place of anger about what Tyler has said before about Eminem's music on Twitter.
I was angry when I said this shit about Tyler. Every time I saw this kid, like, oh, he's so cool to you. I loved his energy, like, but I'm sitting back like, man, at what point do I have to say something just to defend myself?
He kind of felt like it was a backstab after he went on tour and hung out with Tyler. And now, with this new interview that Tyler did on Hot 97, we get to see a bit more of his side and his feelings on Eminem's music. So let's run through the interview right now.
Favorite rapper really inspired me. I don't like his new stuff, and
Cars
he doesn't
smoking,
like
by the
that. I don't like his new stuff, and he dissed me on his last album because I keep being vocal about shit that I don't like.
His newer material hasn't moved you like his material. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah.
So this part is obviously in reference to Tyler's tweets about Shady 15 and presumably about Walk on Water being trash. And honestly, I'm conflicted on how I feel about these tweets. On one hand, Tyler can feel however he wants to about Eminem's music, and Twitter isn't exactly made for giving constructive breakdowns of why you don't like certain music. But on the other hand, it almost always sounds disrespectful when you flat out call something trash or ass without giving reasons as to why you really dislike it. I do understand that Tyler's Twitter personality is very outspoken and pretty carefree, and I do understand him feeling the way about Eminem's music that he does, because a lot of people that are fans of Eminem's older music, they don't really care for the new stuff as much. But I can see why M would take issue with how Tyler expressed his feelings. After that, Tyler goes on to say that Relapse was an Eminem album that he loved, mainly because of the dark, weird, and different sound it had to it, and he felt that that was what Eminem wanted to make. In Tyler's words, that was 100% him.
But it was him. It was like, this is the aesthetic and what I want to go with. And he went 100% with what he liked on there.
And while he didn't love Recovery as much, he could see what Eminem was going for with it and could understand why people liked it. However, what he says right after that is something I highly disagree with.
Fans that didn't really like it, I want the old him. I want the Marshall Mathers LPM. I want the old M. I don't know, but it feels like he read that and was like, damn, you know what? Let me go back and try to rehash a moment. And when people go back, that is the grossest thing. Move forward.
But MMLP2 wasn't exactly going back. This kind of makes it sound like it was a complete retread of the original Marshall Mathers LP just to win favour with old M fans. But it really wasn't. Tyler gives off the impression that Eminem was rapping about the same topics over the same type of production on the sequel, pretending he's still the same Eminem as back in 2000. But I don't feel like that's the case. Eminem was older, his life changed a lot between 2000 to 2013, and he does rap from that new, more mature perspective on this project. A great example is Headlights, where he deeply apologizes to his mother for the disses he just relentlessly threw at her earlier on in his career. On almost every track on MMLP2, Eminem is reflecting on how he used to be and is comparing that to how he feels now, years later, in a pretty self-critical way. Honestly, at most, the closest it gets to the original Mathers LP is with some references in the lyrics, one sequel track to Stan, and the parking lot skit, which picks up where the skit in Criminal left off. Again, not saying that Tyler has to like the album, but I just don't see how you could say that it's the same album or from the same perspective or just a reworking of the first one. However, it's not all disagreements from me, because Tyler does make a good point at this part of the interview about how Eminem responds to criticism.
But it's gonna be right.
I'm gonna go back to the old because that's what they want. F what they want. Give them what you want.
That is pretty true to an extent. Eminem has talked a lot within his music about feeling conflicted on what he should make due to the responses his music gets, and Revival was pretty evident of this. It seemed like his goal with that project was to please everyone by putting tracks that sounded like each of his older albums throughout it, and as a result it actually did the opposite and ended up leaving most people feeling very mixed about it at best. The implementation was pretty messy and underwhelming. There's also the fact that he was gonna make Relapse 2, but eventually scrapped it and made Recovery, presumably due to the fact that the first Relapse didn't get the most stellar reaction when it came out. Making it clear that, to some degree, he's often trying to make what people want him to make, and maybe not so much what he wants to make. So Tyler does have a good point with that statement, in my opinion. So throughout the interview, we never really get a clear-cut response on how Tyler actually feels about this Eminem diss, but just from the way he talks and his demeanor, it seems like he didn't take it too personally, and that he's not too hurt by it, which is good. And not to mention, it seemed like he was talking pretty respectfully about Eminem in this interview. He just likes to be blunt on Twitter. I'd love to see an Eminem and Tyler collab in the future, and because it doesn't seem like Tyler is holding any ill feelings towards Eminem for the diss, I'm gonna choose to believe that it is still possible. A man can dream. So that's pretty much it from this Tyler the Creator interview. What did you guys think about what he had to say about Eminem's music? Do you agree with Tyler's points? Do you agree with what I said about his points? Or do you feel opposite and you disagree? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, because that is what the comment section is for. So that's all I have to say for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one, and this is CDTV Productions, signing out.